I feel like I lost my brain when I got pregnant and just haven't gotten it back. Hey guys, it's Kat, and if you don't know me, I was 17 and pregnant, and now I'm 18 and a mom, so yeah. This is probably going to be long, so I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. I will be looking at my phone a lot, but it's just so I stay on track and don't get completely drifted off, because I was really hesitant about making this for a lot of reasons. My channel's kind of based around me being a teen mom, but like, I don't know, it's just hard to tell your story. It's one thing to make videos relevant to it, but not saying like your actual full-on story, especially just putting it out to the world. But I decided it was time to, now that she's born. I wanted to wait till after she was here. I'll go ahead and say my piece, but first I'm going to do a little backstory. Also, some of the stuff I talk about may be a little triggering, so if you have any sensitivity to pregnancy loss, anything like that, I would go ahead and click off. So I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to tell my full story. I want to kind of also preface by saying I had this idea of how pregnancy would go as a teen completely different. And in general, how pregnancy would go, again, completely different. So I'll link in the eye my video on pregnancy expectations versus the reality of it, because that goes way more into depth about that. I'm going to start with the backstory. So in 2015, that November, I had a miscarriage. I'm not going to go completely in depth about it in this. I might make a separate video on that, telling my story. It's not the most comfortable to talk about though. So I can make a whole different video on that, because how everything went with that pregnancy versus my daughter that I have now, very, very different too. I wasn't very far along, but it was just a crazy situation. Like, I don't know, something you'd think you'd see in movies. So then about a year later, I had missed my period for a few months, and I was like, weird. I never really missed my period. I mean, sometimes it'd be a few days off, but I never like missed my period, like ever, other than that time when I was pregnant. So then the one day I ended up having horrible, horrible pain. Like my stomach was just, it was just ridiculous. I didn't know what was going on, and it just got to like a really bad point. So I ended up having to go to the emergency room because it was horrible. I ended up having a cyst rupture. So then they were watching me for PCOS, and due to that, I was really nervous that I wasn't going to be able to have kids. Plus, I don't really like to admit this just because I was immature and I was ignorant. I wouldn't say stupid, but I was definitely ignorant, lack of knowledge, and had tried to get pregnant before and didn't. Little did I realize, like, there's certain times of the month that are better to try, and so I had previously tried, especially after the miscarriage, and like, sorry mom, sorry family, I know that was ignorant, but too late. But oh well now, because I didn't. So I mean, I did, but not like purposely. My daughter that I have now was not planned. It was not on purpose. I was amazed that it even happened. I'll get into that in a bit though. So just because of everything, I thought I wasn't even able to have kids, or I thought it was going to be really hard. I didn't think it was going to be, I just thought I was like going to have bad luck with it, because my grandparents had a really hard time trying to have my mom. And then my mom literally only got pregnant with me. And it's not because a lack of doing things. And she hasn't taken birth control hardly at all, so it's not from that either. I'm not going to go more into depth, but I'm amazed that she hasn't gotten pregnant other than me. So I kind of just thought that maybe I wasn't going to be able to, which was really upsetting, because the one thing I've always wanted was to be a mom. And that was like my one goal in life, my one dream. I'm sorry I'm playing with my hair a lot. It's when I kind of like half straightened it today, so like it's more flat than normal, so I like to mess with it. Plus it's like I get really bad anxiety talking about this stuff, just because it's hard to talk about. I mean, it's just not something, I don't go in depth on my channel a lot, and it puts me in a vulnerable place. But I just think that like it needs to be put out there. So this is just like a relaxation type of thing. But anyways, I never really got checked about it, and honestly, I didn't really say my concerns to my midwife because at the time, I was a minor, so family had to sign for stuff, and like, obviously I don't want to be like 16 and being like, oh, am I going to be able to have kids later on in life? And like, they can't really tell you that for sure anyways, and I think I'd asked my regular doctor about it, and she was like, well, you have years before you have to worry about it, so I just was like, okay, whatever. I'm not getting answers from anybody, so. And obviously my family was like, you don't need to worry about that right now, because they don't want me to be a pregnant teen. Oops. My miscarriage made my relationship with my family ridiculous. It was so bad, and it also kind of goes into my relationship. For legal reasons, I can't talk a lot about it, to be honest with you, which really sucks. I'd have to look more into it, what all I'm actually able to share without like risking getting in trouble or somebody getting in trouble. But we'll just say that it made for a very uncomfortable situation with everybody, and so I ended up feeling just very disowned by a lot of my family, which they're amazing now. So I don't have any like hard feelings about it. I mean, like, I was being really immature and ignorant, so I get it now, but, you know, kids will be kids. But in that time, I got really close with Lee, which is my fiance, my daughter's dad, his mom. She helped me deal with the whole miscarriage situation. She helped me deal with my family. She helped me with just, like, everything. She was like my mom, and yeah, so we were so close. But still, she was my boyfriend's mom, so you guys can put two and two together as far as like this whole situation, because I don't want to specifically say certain things just because of legal reasons, like I said. But even with her being so close, her being his mom, I still couldn't be like comfortably talk about the fact that like I still wanted to be a mom, a young mom. Even though I knew it was wrong. I didn't fully understand why, other than that it was kind of selfish. And part of it was because I was scared that like later on I wouldn't be able to handle being a mom on my own, like without my family's help. But that's selfish because that's not their responsibility. So it was just really difficult not having a good support system of people I could talk to. And again, due to legal reasons, I really couldn't talk to people about it because 2015, how old was I? I'm 18 now, so having that isolation and going through a loss like that, and especially with the fact that I wanted to be a mom, clearly not in that situation, that was not planned. After the fact, I had tried to get pregnant, which was not smart, like I've already said. It was just based on ignorance. But again, my daughter was not planned. I just want to keep, like, things to be clear. I'm trying not to drift off too much, but it's still happening. And this, like, thing right here hurts. I'm Rudolph, I know. But because I was feeling isolated, feeling that loss, feeling that void, it left me wanting to fill that void, because when you feel empty and alone and you just want to fill that void. Well, I do want to say that as much as you'll want to fill that void, it still won't by having a baby, and I can say that now that I've had one, but it's something you wouldn't realize until you went through it, and I never believed anybody that would say it, but it was also really hard to talk to people. I'm sure I could have gotten more help than I did if my situation at the time was different, but it wasn't, so that was really hard just dealing with it. It was just really difficult, honestly, because like I couldn't reach out to people, I couldn't talk about it, I had to basically pretend it didn't happen. So that really sucked. And the fact that it felt like my family was disowning me made it even worse, because I had that like ache for a family. So the only solution that like I was thinking of for a long period of time was to have a baby. I will say that me having my daughter, I'm a lot closer with my family than I've ever been, but at the same time, the situation's different. If this would have happened, like, the universe or whatever you believe in my situation, it's God, there's always a plan. Like, things happen the way they are supposed to happen. Things that are meant to be will be. Things that aren't won't. And looking back, I can say that. And I'm glad it happened the way it did. Which I'm not necessarily glad I went through all this stuff, but at the same time, I wouldn't be where I'm at now if it wasn't for that. So, no hard feelings. I'm fine. Like, I'm doing good. Relevant to this stuff. With all of that happening, it really messed with the relationship. It was really hard because we realized we were, like, in a way, he was, like, not meaning to, but blaming me for the miscarriage, and it was entirely no one's fault. But he didn't even know he was doing it. He figured that out from counseling. It made some really bad tension between all of us, and it was really hard. So, like, when I talk about the fact that we've been on and off, it's like we didn't have much of an option because, how do I put it? When you're a minor, you don't have full say in what happens in your life, and if your parents say no, you can't do it. You can do it, but I'm not good at being sneaky and, like, no, I'm not even gonna, like, I would not encourage it. It was partially our fault, partially not. It made it really tough, so we've been through a lot. Well, honestly, I probably should have gotten more help with the situation, but there wasn't a lot that I could do because of the legal issue that would be involved. If you know us personally, you know what I'm talking about, so, or in general, if you can put two and two together. Sorry for repetitively saying that, but it's just hard. But to continue on with the story, his mom was there for me. He was obviously there for me too, but it's different when having an adult figure be there for you, someone to look up to. And she had been teaching me about God. I knew that there was a thing, God, Jesus, church. I didn't really know how it all connected. I didn't really understand all of it. My family's not super religious. I didn't grow up, like, in a religious environment either. I mean, I'd gone to some churches with friends. Most of them were Catholic, I believe. I don't think I'd actually ever gone to one that wasn't Catholic until after I went to some non-denominational ones, but that was it, like, until after her. There's a lot I didn't agree with, and I knew that from the start, but I understood more as she was teaching me, and she taught me so much, and just having something to believe in, trust in, and rely on, I don't know, like, you don't have to have the same beliefs as me. I don't care. That makes no difference to me. I judge people based on how they treat me and others, not about their religious standpoint or if there even is a religious standpoint for them. That's not, I don't want anyone to ever feel like I'm pushing my faith onto them, but it's helped me a lot personally. So I went through some losses for the first time since I was a kid after that. So, like, one was even at the same time as the miscarriage. Like, I went to a visitation thinking I was pregnant, found out after, like, right before the funeral that I wasn't, or wasn't anymore. It was rough, honestly. Like, the situation was just horribly timed. Obviously now it's like, it was perfectly timed. I just didn't see it then. But then come around to April of the next year, I ended up getting saved. So I was in a Pentecostal church. I don't know if that church is Pentecostal that I got saved in, but originally it was. There's some things that have changed about it. It's not our home church either. Not that we go to that one anymore, but again, different story. I'm trying to not get off topic. This is why I wrote notes. But even with all of that, I still felt so alone and still had that void that just wasn't getting filled. Part of it was because I was not taking my faith seriously enough. And then the hardest thing happened. June 3rd of 2016, his mom passed away from a heart attack at 41. It was completely out of the blue. Like, she got sick sometimes, but nothing like more than a normal person. So when he called me freaking out, I thought, like, oh, it's probably nothing. And then, like, she was actually gone. And it's so hard for me to talk about it now because, you know, it's sad and I miss her, and especially she always wanted a granddaughter and now she does, and so it's like, it sucks that she's not going to get to meet her, but everything happens for a reason, and she taught me enough that I will be able to teach her and just pass that information along to her, and same with her dad. The faith was a little interesting after that. I'd have to tell a whole nother story about my faith, but that made things so difficult too, because then I felt like I had nobody besides him, and it was hard to open up to people because it's like I felt so guilty and irresponsible for wanting a baby young. I knew it wasn't right. I didn't fully understand why. I didn't fully understand why I even wanted it so bad, and like I was also surrounded by a bunch of friends that were getting pregnant, and it was so hard, like, especially seeing how accepting their families were and how horrible mine was to me. So yes, they were amazing about my daughter that I have now, but that one, not the daughter, I don't know what the gender was. It was horrible. It was really bad. And I couldn't really talk to my friends about it, and I honestly didn't have a lot of friends at that point. I completely drifted because of my relationship. The relationship just honestly was not good at the time, and it was not affecting my life very well. It got me out of this horrible depression that I was in. Not necessarily the relationship, but just something, probably his mom, like all of it just got me out of a horrible depression. I think there was still some there, but it was not as bad as it was for 7th grade. So yeah, I was young. This was freshman year, but yeah, I was in a horrible depression, 7th going into 8th grade. But then the end of 8th grade is when I met her, and so it was nice to get out of that. I was just being so full of envy, and I was happy for them, but still envious, you know? Some people are like, I can't believe your family reacted the way they did about my daughter. It's like, if only you knew. Well, now they can, because I'm posting it. I just wish I could go back and tell myself that my feelings weren't uncommon or abnormal. They weren't wrong. They were completely valid feelings. I was just dealing with them at a much younger age than would be ideal to have to deal with them at. Because you can't really talk about it unless you have the situation in your favor, I guess. So just know, if you have gone through the emotions of that, it's hard, but you're not alone. Wanting a baby, even if it's not the smart thing to do for your situation, that's not invalid. It is okay to want to fill that void. They won't fill that void. They can help. They can also make you crazier. I love her to death, but, you know, it can make you crazy, too. I feel like I lost my brain when I got pregnant and just haven't gotten it back. And all this stuff that we were going through, it was just impacting our relationship horribly. I mean, it was just so toxic. It really was. And I think that's why we were so on and off, was because really it shouldn't have been on and off. And he's matured so much since having our daughter. Like, not as much at the beginning of my pregnancy, but definitely towards the end, he finally started to man up. And that's nothing against him. It's not even, like, how he was raised. It's just, like, the situation he was in. How he was raised, I guess, but that kind of makes it feel like I'm blaming his parents, which isn't what I'm doing, so. And I had my issues just as much. We were just very different. So then, fast forward to last New Year's Eve. I was eating a bunch of pickles. And I had been sick that whole week before. And I just figured it was, like, the flu or something. But I couldn't really keep food down. It just made me feel really nauseous. And then I joked on New Year's Eve. I was like, I bet I'm pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And I had constantly thought I was pregnant, like, all the time. Even before I missed a period or something, I always just thought I was pregnant. I was like, I'm pregnant. But then this time, I didn't. Not at all. And, so then New Year's Day, I was like, All of a sudden, I was like, I'll just get a test. You know, that's weird that I missed my period. And I took a test, and it said pregnant, and I was like, sheet. I'll say sheet, but that's not what I said. We were not together at the time. Our relationship, like I said, was not good. So yeah, that was fun. I was a day short of being 6 weeks pregnant when I found out I was pregnant. I got a blood test done within like a day or two after, and it confirmed that I was definitely pregnant. And then once I was like a day shy of being 8 weeks pregnant is when I actually went into the OB. They did more blood work, got all the stuff ready, actually came up with my due date of August 28th. She was actually born the 31st. But I have a labor and delivery story. I'll link it in the eye. And then I got my first ultrasound done right before I was like 10 weeks. I had some scares throughout my pregnancy, like nothing too major. And the whole time I was paranoid. I was so paranoid that I was going to lose her. And I was so cautious about everything. And I think that's just something that happens after you have a miscarriage, is like, I was so in denial that I was pregnant, and I honestly tried to pretend that I wasn't. I mean, I took care of myself like I was, but I tried to pretend I wasn't because I didn't want to get my hopes up. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to, until I was out of my first trimester, I was kind of like, I just don't want to talk about it. I mean, I announced it, but so that was probably not very smart because I didn't want to talk about it. I was excited, but then at the same time, it was like, I knew I was pregnant, but like, I was in denial until I saw the ultrasound. But I was like very distant from it, I guess, if that makes sense. I like detached from it when talking about it. I ended up having a really healthy pregnancy, and I have a decently healthy baby now. She has allergy issues, but that's about it. I was definitely not the best to people around me, including my family, boyfriend, friends, anybody throughout the years that I was talking about, and honestly a few years before. I just didn't deal with situations well, and not that that's an excuse, but I didn't understand how to. So to anyone that was negatively affected by that, I'm sorry. I was immature and ignorant to a lot of it. I truly believe everything happens for a reason. I'm so thankful for the family that I do have and the support system, the friends, and my fiance. And I'm really thankful for my daughter as well. Being 17 and pregnant is not ideal. Being 18 and a mom is not ideal if you aren't prepared. In general, being a parent when you're not decently stable in life is not ideal. But it is what it is. You just gotta make the best of it. You can get through anything if you put your mind to it. I mean, maybe not some things, but like, if it doesn't kill you, you can get through it and make yourself stronger from it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my story of being 17 and pregnant. Bye!